for when the Big Brother season starts because I know that I'm going to be wanting to give Big Brother updates all day, but I know that this second phone, which feels like a handcuff, is going to keep ringing continuously. I have a call to make right now, but I'm determined to at least finish off this live before I go to my house. So the last comment that I read in the last live before I got off was a comment that said somebody gets mad when their therapist says it's not about what they say, it's about how you choose to react. If I was a therapist, which I'm not, I'm a counselor, even though we do some of the same things, but if I was a therapist, that's not really what I would say, but I would say a version of that. The reason why is because, just like I said yesterday, there are times when things justify certain reactions. I do understand the part about not holding on to things for you and to demonstrate patience and to demonstrate forgiveness just because you don't want to hold feelings of anger, resentment in your own mind and in your own heart. I fully understand that, but there are definitely times when you need to let out whatever you gotta let out. So I'm just a person who's more like make sure that you are sure of what you're saying. So for me, I always think very carefully about whatever it is that has happened and whatever it is that was said to me. So my thing about walk around the block, right? To give you a great example, I had something that made me really furious and angry a couple of years ago. And I still remember it. I still remember that day like it was yesterday. And I happened to speak to a friend during that time. And when I was speaking to that friend, I was irrational. I'm usually very rational for the most part, but I was extremely irrational at that point in time. And that friend was like trying to give me, they were trying to calm me down, and they were trying to make sure that I didn't do things that would be inappropriate or things that would have consequences for myself later. And I wasn't trying to hear that. I was like, I don't want to hear that. I just have to do what I have to do and I have to say what I have to say. And there was no convincing me otherwise. So this friend was like, okay, please do me a favor. Just one favor for me. You can do and say whatever you want to say. But go to your park, because they knew I had a park nearby. Go into the park and walk around the park 2 or 3 times. Come back inside. And if you still want to say the same things and do the same things that you wanted to do before you left for the walk, go ahead and do them. But just do that for me. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go outside for a little bit. So I went outside. I was power walking, because my walking pace is usually very slow. I don't walk like a New Yorker at all. People always make fun of me for it. I'm chilling right now. Even when I'm doing this walk, I should probably be able to do these 10,000 steps in, I would say, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. It takes me an hour because I'm a slow walker. But I was power walking that day because I just couldn't wait to get back in my house. Then I started to get a little bit tired. And I made it around 1 lap. Then I made the 2nd lap. I made the 3rd lap. I came back into my house. And I actually was like, when I sat down for at least a minute, I was like, what was I so mad about again? I had to think about it, crazy enough. It was the only thing on my mind when I stepped outside, but then I had to think about it. Like, what made me so furious? And then I remembered. And when I remembered, I was still upset. I was definitely still upset, but I wasn't furious. I was down from, like I said, an 11 out of 12, 12 out of 10, 11 out of 10 to like a 6 out of 10. And that's usually where I am. I'm usually nowadays at a simmering point because I go to great lengths to make sure that I don't get to a 10. And that's the whole point of what I was making in my first live. I used to be somebody who would start at a 10, then have my reactions right away, and then have to try to find ways out of whatever I said or did. Or just let people go, because that's what ended up happening a lot of the time. I would just say whatever, and then we're not friends anymore. It's done. If it's about a friend. So the reason people consider me so calm now is because I always think before I speak. I think before I have a reaction 90% of the time. Not always, because there's nothing that you can do always, but way more often than not. When something happens and I feel really upset about it, I say, let me separate myself from whatever this is. If it's a conversation, let's continue the conversation later. And I've had people get mad at me for that, but I'm like, trust me. You might think that I'm just trying to hop out, because there's people who just really love to be at the peak of a confrontation. It sounds funny, but there are actually people who like to be at the apex of an argument where you're furious, they're furious, and you're just throwing darts at each other, throwing axes and knives at each other. But I don't like that, because I'm not somebody who can say crazy things to somebody and they say crazy things to me, and then we hug it out afterwards like, oh, I'm sorry for that thing that I said, I didn't mean it, and I know you didn't mean that either. No, because I tend to feel like when people are the angriest is when they're the most truthful. Things that people say when they're angry, I feel like a lot of times are things that they mean, but wouldn't have said otherwise until the anger took the filter off. So that's the end of my story. I'm midday. I didn't get my full uninterrupted walk as usual, but at least I got a little bit. So thanks for joining, and please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. What are we, Tuesday today? Maybe I'll come back, I don't know. We'll see how the day unfolds, and I will talk to y'all soon.